Hello world, and thanks for joining me. My name is Mohit Deshpande, and in this course we'll be building a convolutional neural network. And so these are the kinds of neural networks that are specifically designed for working with image data. And so what I've shown here is actually a visualization taken from a paper that lets us see the kinds of things that a convolutional neural network is actually learning. And so you can see that we have these really awesome feature detectors that it's learning to detect things like dog noses or dog faces, and another one that's used to detect eyes, and another one that might be used to detect like petals of a flower. So we're going to actually be training neural networks, and we're going to see that it's learning these things under the hood, basically. And so we're going to apply the same kind of things that convolutional neural networks are using. We're actually going to be building some of the state-of-the-art models. Then we're going to be discussing them and actually coding them up as well. And so you're going to see a lot of that. So it's really exciting that you'll be working with some pretty recent advancements instead of working with things that are invented, decades ago. And so we'll be discussing some really modern architectures, and we're going to be using this for the same problem. We're going to be discussing particularly how we classify handwritten digits. And so we're going to compare the results of a convolutional neural network to a plain neural network. So before we actually get into convolutional networks, we should first discuss a little bit about what images are and a little bit of image processing stuff, because convolutional neural networks are specifically designed to work with image data. And so we have to have a good understanding of what images are and how we can work with them in order to use convolutional neural networks. And then afterwards, we'll actually be discussing what are the different components of a convolutional neural network, how are they arranged, and how does the whole thing basically work from start to end. Fortunately, because they're still a kind of neural network, we can use backpropagation in exactly the same way. And so everything is just kind of strung together, and backpropagation will make all of this is the glue kind of that holds all this stuff together. And then what we'll be discussing after we get familiar with just plain old convolutional neural networks, we're going to be discussing a little bit of some of the fancier architectures. So in particular, we'll be discussing things like VGG, Net, VGG16 stuff. We'll be discussing the Google Net stuff and the ResNet stuff that's actually only just a couple years old. And, so we'll be discussing a lot of the more modern architectures. And so that'll be really exciting when we get into some of the later stuff here with convolutional neural network architecture. We're going to compare the results of all these guys on our handwritten digits data set. So it's going to be really exciting to see how they stack up. We've been making courses since 2012, and we're super excited to have you on board. Online courses are a fantastic way to learn all kinds of new skills, and I take a ton of online courses myself. Zenva courses consist mainly of video lessons that you can watch at your own pace and as many times as you want. We also have downloadable source code and project files that have everything that we'll build in the lessons. It's highly recommended that you code along with me, because in my experience, that's the best way to learn something, is to really get your hands dirty with it. Lastly, we've seen that students who get the most out of these online courses are those who make a weekly plan and stick with it, depending of course on your own availability and learning style. At Zenva, we've taught programming and game development to over 200,000 students through over 50 courses since 2012. Some of these students have used the skills that they've learned to advance their own careers, make a startup, or even publish their own apps and games. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing all the cool stuff you'll be building. Now, without further ado, let's get started.